everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is our second to last meeting of the semester, so we're super glad you're here. I'll go ahead and jump into the agenda. I'm going to make a brief announcement about some things going on with MOBS, and then we have our two guest speakers who are actually alumni from SF State. And I think this panel is going to be super cool because Jerome has business ownership experience and Amy has over 20 years of corporate experience. And so if you want to either own your own business one day or learn how to get your foot in the door for your first corporate job, and if you have any questions, put in the chat, and if time permits, we'll try to answer all of them. So some topics that we'll be going over is how to network in business, setting goals, and then maybe some experience learning tips from our alumni's career journeys, and then we'll wrap up. So some announcements is that after spring semester, MOBS will be hosting a graduation celebration for management majors, and we're looking for people to join the graduation celebration committee to plan all the details for this. And joining the committee will be great for you to add to your resume, and it can help you develop transferable skills such as leadership skills, time management skills, and event planning and execution. So if you did want to join, one of our council members will be putting the link in our chat. And after break, I know break is coming up, so you guys can all relax. I know it's been a hard semester online. But after that, we have our last MOBS workshop on Thursday at 6 p.m. So one of our council members will also be putting to join our mailing list. So you could look out for more information on that. And if you can't make that, then we're going to be having so many more workshops spring semester, as well as weekly virtual office hours from our MOBS Council. If you have any questions about the club, if you want us to take a look at your LinkedIn and give you some tips, same goes to your resume. And if you just want to talk about anything at all, we're open to it. So please join our mailing list and stay tuned for more from MOBS. I'm going to hand it off to Jerome, and you can introduce yourself and give us your presentation. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Jerome, and I am very excited to be here with you this evening. My passion is helping other people, and I've been lucky enough to be able to do that through local libraries and nonprofits and chambers by teaching classes on networking and goal setting and leadership development. And a lot of those workshops, I lead with the same quote, which is a quote from Mark Twain: "Without dreams and goals, there is no living, only merely existing." And that is not why we are here. I see so many people that I encounter professionally that are content to just go through their days, not really striving for more, not really having goals to do more, maybe even complaining a little bit about where they are in life. So I'm hoping to encourage you tonight that through networking, through setting goals, even if they're lofty goals, by moving forward, by progressing, you can get a whole lot out of this life. I'll share a little bit about my story as we go, to where you can see that growing up in West Oakland, I didn't think I'd be where I am, but sometimes you take control of your own destiny and you'll be surprised where you end up. So who am I? My name is Jerome, and I am a vice president with Wise Sons. So what? I'm not telling you anything. This is how a lot of people introduce themselves. They'll say my name, they'll give where they work, and that's it. And I'm going to share with you a way that I think if you introduce yourself in the future, people will want to connect a little bit more. They'll understand what you do. For instance, if I said, my name is Jerome, and I am a vice president of catering sales with Wise Sons Deli. I'm not giving you a lot more, but you'd probably think there's some food involved. If you're Jewish, or you know someone who's Jewish, or you live near a deli, maybe you're thinking pastrami and rye. I only added 4 words between my first introduction and my second, but it's giving you a little bit more of a sense of what I do. Now, what if I said instead, and I realize this is a ridiculous amount, so I'm not endorsing going this far, but what if I said, my name is Jerome, I oversee catering sales for a group that operates in San Francisco and Tokyo. I work with admins and I really help them order food for meetings and events while focusing a ton of my energy on treating my employees better than I treat my customers. I'm a vice president of catering sales with Wise Son's Jewish Delicatessen. Now, once again, this is overkill, and it may be too much depending on the situation you're in. But when I share this introduction, a lot of people hone in on Tokyo and, oh, that's really cool. You have a location in Tokyo. And now they're engaging me and they want to know more. And if someone asks you a question, they're not going to be upset if you give them more information. So that's a good place to be. A lot of people hone in on the fact that I try to treat my employees better than I treat my customers, because that still is a weird thing, although I feel like we know that that's the way it should be, because employees that are treated well will treat our customers well, and then we just get this really good ecosystem of business. This introduction, what I've done is I take value I have, things that I actually do, and I share those before I share where I work and what my title is. So I'm going to encourage you to do the same, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. So who am I? I do own my own consulting company, smartselling.guru. It started off as a catering company back in 2007, 2008. Did a lot of catering in the San Francisco Bay Area where I was born and raised. I was joking earlier that my wife and I decided to have our first child, and she was half of my workforce. So as she decided to not help me anymore, it was very hard to cater for 100 people. So I pulled back on that. In addition to owning my own business, I've also worked for other organizations along the way. One of those, as you're painfully aware at the moment, is Wise Son's Jewish Delicatessen, where I'm their vice president of sales. Before that, I was a vice president with Le Boulanger in the South Bay, not La Boulange, which was bought by Starbucks, different company. But this group is family owned. They did all the bread for Levi Stadium, so I got to go to free 49ers games, San Jose Sharks, Sacramento Kings. I got to go to WrestleMania for free, and if you're judging me because I'm a wrestling fan, shame on you, because wrestling is cool. I was able to go to Taylor Swift concert, and that was amazing. So it was just really good experiences supporting that team, breaking all their records, and a lot of that was simply goal setting and networking. Before that, I was a regional sales manager at Einstein Noah Restaurant Group, which is Noah's Bagels here on the West Coast. I oversaw Washington, Oregon, Northern California, 100 employees delivering thousands of orders, just crazy amounts of logistics. And I found what I learned in my BAs and eventually my MBA, and then having my own business, I was able to take a lot of those principles and really put them into these giant organizations that had meaningful results, which I thought was pretty cool. I was at a place called the Oaks Conference Center before then. When I was a teen, it was a leadership and training program. I learned sports and rec directing. I worked in their kitchen, and you kind of get a sense that I like food from my history. If I can help people and I can eat, that's a win-win. I do have a podcast called The 5-Minute Networker, where I talk a lot about networking. So if you like some of the few things that I shared tonight, please feel free to check that out. They're 5-minute podcasts, very quick to listen to. I have another podcast called the Smart Selling Guru Podcast, deals with everything that I talk about in my company. To round this out, I wrote a book called Effortless Catering. It is a terrible book that I hope nobody ever buys. And I say that with all seriousness. I was 23. I thought I knew a lot, but I also wanted to be a speaker. And what did all the speakers have? A book. So I wrote a book, and I'm an author. Nobody can take that from me. I have a book I'm actually proud of, and this is when I put myself on the cover so people would buy it, on business networking and some of the things that I share. I have an MBA in business administration, BA in psychology, BA in philosophy, and I got those by accident. I was a psychology major. I took more segment 3 philosophy classes than I ended up with psychology classes. So when I went to graduate, they go, oh, you're a philosophy major. And I go, no, I'm not. So I got to dual major for the price of 1 degree. Look at that, fortunate accents. I do have a letters, arts, and sciences degree as an AA, and I've won a couple of awards at Noah's Bagels and the Oaks Conference Center. I share all this with you. I have had a very successful career selling and connecting with people, and it really goes back to the principles and the things I'll share with you over the next few moments. For your introduction, and I'm happy to share these slides, I have a couple worksheets that go along with them. I'll send that all over so you don't have to scribble this all down. But I'm going to urge you to come up with an introduction where you share what your value is, and then you share your title and where you work, or you share that you're a student and where you go to school. For instance, when I was going to SFSU, I may have said, my name is Jerome, and I'm very interested in group dynamic and group process and how organizations support their employees. I'm endeavoring to work with a group where I can do training. I am a student at San Francisco State University. In my role as a vice president, my name is Jerome. I support admins who bring in food. I treat my employees as well as I can so they go out and treat our customers well. I'm a VP of sales with Wise Sons. So it's giving a few things that you do well, value that you have, with the hope that if I say I'm passionate about training and the other person's passionate about training, they'll say, oh, I like training too. Now we have an instant connection where that conversation is going to flow a lot more organically than if I say I'm a VP and then just stand there and stare at them. I'll stop for a second because I don't want to just talk at you guys. Is there any questions on this, or can I jump into a little bit more? All right, we're moving on. In terms of goal setting, I'll jump back and forth between networking and goal setting. I think there are 10 areas that you should strive to have a goal in. 10 is a lot of areas, and that is overwhelming. But I think as you progress through life, some areas become more important than others. For instance, educational. You guys are in school and you're getting your degrees, and that's super important right now. As you go later in life, you may not have an educational goal, but right now you do, and that's awesome. Make sure you know what you're going towards. Talk to your career counselor. Make sure you're checking your grades and your units and that everything's going the right way. Make sure you have a goal and that you're working towards it the right way for your education. Physical and health. You guys are in really good positions right now, as we all were when we were a little bit younger. I am now 38, and the 185-degree well-chiseled body I once had is not as chiseled as I hope it would be. So now I'm walking a little bit more, and I have goals for exercise. So once again, as you go through life, things are going to change. But make sure you have some sort of physical or health goal that will serve you well. Relationship, not necessarily romantic, but in business. I hope you all have a LinkedIn profile. If you don't, please make one as soon as possible. I regret so much that I didn't have one going through school. Professors I had, people that I was really close with, that once you graduate and you go different directions, you just lose contact with. Create a LinkedIn, connect with people. You never know when you'll need a recommendation or you'll need someone to endorse you for skills because you're looking to get a position. Connect. But what are those goals that you have for relationships? Personal development. You're in school, and that's a lot of this right now. What are you doing outside of that? Well, you're doing a workshop right now. So I absolutely applaud you for taking time that you could be playing games or watching cat videos or whatever kids are doing these days. And you're investing in yourself. That's huge. And I thank you for letting me be part of this, because I feel like I get something out of this by helping, and that's one of my goals. So you're helping me. So there you go. And then what are your career goals? I can honestly tell you, as I sit here, I'm still not 100% sure what I want to do. I like food, so that's working for me. I like doing stuff like this, so that's working. But what is your career goal? If you think you want to do something, find someone in that industry and ask them to mentor you. Job shadow someone in that profession. I kind of fell into the job I had by luck. It was something I enjoyed doing and it worked for me. But I know a lot of people that feel stuck in their career because they graduate, they just jump into something. It's not really what they thought. They can't really pivot. So take the time and the energy to look at what your career goals are and start working backwards. Is it really something I want to do? Can I find someone that will mentor me? Put a little energy into what your goals are in that area. Financial. Once again, I took out more student loans than I cared to admit. I'm very happy that we were able to pay those off by the time I was maybe 33. I continued to get education a little longer than not, but it adds up quick. There was a point where I had $800 a month in student loan payments, which is absurd. So what are your financial goals? Make sure you're being mindful about your decisions now, because they're going to impact you long term. Spiritual. Whether you believe there's something out there, whether you like to hug trees, whatever the case is, do you have a spiritual goal? Some of this goes to mindset. Right now, there may not be too much stress, but I will tell you, as you get into your career and the different needs that are out there, I've been asked to be on a nonprofit board to support a college that supports individuals with learning disabilities and physical disabilities. It's amazing. I'm excited to be a part of that. But I've also been asked to be the president of an alumni association that I'm with. So now I have that. So the stress starts to add up quick. So have something outside of yourself. Once again, even if it's just going to the ocean. I spent so much time at the ocean just watching the waves crash on the sand. Something. Psychological. This is a tough one. In the community I grew up in West Oakland, there were two health centers. There was the West Oakland Health Center, where you could go if you needed medical care, and there was the West Oakland Mental Health Center, and that was where all the crazy people are, because we didn't talk about our psychological well-being, and that it was okay to not be okay, and that it's okay to talk to people and to get help. So make sure you're being mindful of where your head is, how you're feeling. You know, are you down on yourself more than you should be? Are you not feeling quite right? I'm telling you, it's okay to get help. I have talked to more people than I will share with you, but make sure you're being mindful of having goals in that area. External goals. What are you going to do to impact this world outside of just the job you do? Is it helping in the community through nonprofits? Is it soup kitchens? Is it volunteering on a Thursday night to come and hopefully impart a little bit of wisdom? Make sure you have a goal there, even if it's just an hour a month. There's something powerful about giving back and how that impacts your well-being and obviously the other people that you're helping. And last but not least, experiential goals. What is it you want to accomplish? Before the pandemic, I was traveling a lot for workshops and conferences. Last year, I spoke in Tennessee and in New Orleans. I was up in Sonoma. I was out in I had all these cool things I did, but I didn't take the time to actually get to know the city or get there a day early and explore, because there's plenty of time. No way a pandemic's going to hit and we'll all be locked in our homes. So make sure you have goals for those experiences you want to do. Write them down somewhere. And that's one of the things I want to encourage you to do. Take these 10 areas, write them down on a piece of paper, and what is your short-term and your long-term goal in each area? Even if it's far-fetched, writing something down and sharing it with other people, you'll be more likely to be successful with those goals. And something to think about, it's a activity I ask people to do called an ideal day. So what is an ideal day for you? This isn't sitting in Hawaii, sipping out of coconut drinks, although if that's your ideal day, I'm happy to come with you and participate. This is more, what is that day you can see living over and over and over again? Because whether you want to believe it or not, soon you're going to have a job. It's going to be 5 days a week. Those weeks are going to become very repetitive. For me, I've always had a job where I can work from home, which is amazing. I can get up in the morning, I can grab my coffee, I can go on a 2-mile walk, I can come home, shower, get going. If I'm not feeling great, I can go play a couple video games. We won't tell bosses about, but it's a day that I can live over and over again. I feel content with that. I finish my day, I walk with my wife, we watch a show, I eat a candy bar before bed, don't judge me, but my life is okay. I'm okay with that. So put a little bit of energy into what is it for me that's an ideal day. We have lots of dreams when we're younger. So maybe an ideal day for you is traveling around and not needing money. So start to hone that in a little bit. What's that realistic? Where do I want to be a year from now, 5 years from now? Because the more you conceptualize that, the more you visualize and put it out there and share with others, once again, the more likely you are to bring that into reality. A quick note, and I can't express this enough. The world is a crazy place right now. And I want you guys to look at the positives in yourself. As you're learning, as you're growing, if it's starting your own business, if it's working somewhere else, don't look at trying as failure. If you tried and you learned something, that's amazing, and celebrate that. I've had people that I've supported who will do 95% of something and get really upset. And I'm like, you're 95% further than you were before. So it's okay to understand if you came up short. I want you to be realistic, but don't forget to celebrate the success, to look back and see how far you've come. for me, if you told me 15 years ago, this is where I'd be, I'd call you crazy, but I can look back and see those things. So just be realistic, but also understand that if you're trying, that in itself is success. This is something that I want you to keep with you for the rest of your life. This is a technique when networking that will serve you well, I promise you. I have attended hundreds and hundreds of networking events and conferences. That is only half of the lanyards I have. This technique is called present, past, future. As you introduce yourself to someone, they'll introduce themselves back. Ask them a little bit more about what they currently do. You said you're a doctor. What do you specialize in? You said you're a teacher. What age do you teach? Oh, you said you're a student. What are you majoring in? Whatever it is, just ask a little bit more about what they're currently doing. Then you ask about their past. What did you do before this? And maybe they are in college like you are, so it's probably going to be a little obvious if they were a high school student. But maybe they share they played soccer and you played soccer. Oh, I played soccer too. Now you have something to connect over. So you ask about their present a little bit more. You ask about their past. And then you ask about their future. What is it you want to do long term? Even if it's just a networking event, what's your goal of networking? Networking at its core is about exchanging value. This is what I have. What do you have? How do we support each other? And when you sell, you want to listen. And if you're asking questions, then you're learning. And when you learn, you understand how to connect, how to support. The other thing about networking is you want to be confident in who you are, what you say. And if you ask somebody these questions, they're going to ask you the same questions. Now, guess who knows what's coming? You have the answers prepared. You're going to encounter people that stumble over their introduction or can't really explain who they are or what they want to do. And it's not that they're unintelligent, it's not that they're not a great person, but it just comes off in a way that I want you guys to shine when you're out there networking. Because once again, a connection can mean everything. A guy I worked for at Noah's Bagels is the same guy I work for now. The job in the middle, not so much, but I didn't even fill out an application for this job. He knew who I was. He knows what I've done. We networked a couple of times in the 4 or 5 years we didn't work together. I took him out to breakfast. So you want to build connections. Those are going to be everything for you. Then as we round this out, make sure you start to understand your value. Sometimes we think we know what our value is, and we may not be so sure. Sometimes our value isn't what we think it is. Another thing I want you to do tonight, reach out to someone you know and trust and ask them 2 quick questions for me. What am I good at, and what can I do better? Ask them to give you honest answers. Say, this crazy guy in a workshop asked me to do this. But if you're going to network and you're going to exchange value and you don't know what your value is, that's going to be very difficult to do. We all have a friend in our group that we think is flaky. We all have a friend in our group that isn't on time for things. I'm going to tell you, you're probably that friend in one of those groups, not necessarily those 2 options. So make sure you start to understand what you're good at, what you can do better, and then you can start offsetting that by learning and growing. And last but not least, just a couple more ways to figure out your strengths and weaknesses. Write a list of what you think you're good at and what you may not be good at. Share that list with someone and see what they say. Better yet, ask someone to write out a few things for you and see if your list matches theirs. There are personality tests online. You can think back to a time you felt really good about an accomplishment you had and think about the skills you used to accomplish that. Just get out there and try new things with a mask and with distance, but try new things, experience new things. And what are those things that come easy to you? What are you good at? Focus on those strengths and you'll be in good shape. And that, in a nutshell, are a few things in terms of networking and goal setting. I do workshops outside of this, so if there is some interest in here, I'm happy to share that information with you as well. If there are any questions, happy to answer them, or we can do that towards the end as I transition it over to Amy.
Thank you, Jerome. So is this my turn now? I wish I can see everybody's face because I want to make this a dialogue. So we have 2 different styles of the speech, right? So I want to make an interactive dialogue. First of all, I want to say I feel very connected with all of you. I asked Isla at the beginning of this event, most of the attendees, junior or senior or sophomore, and she said most of you are junior and senior, because I have a son who's attending college and he's a junior in the college, so he's your age. So I feel very, very connected with all of you. He's, as a matter of fact, he's also, he goes to college in Boston, but now he's home. He's been home since March. He's actually in a different room right now. So yeah, I feel like talking to all of you, just like I have a college junior just next door. So I have a very, very different background than Jerome. I was born and raised in China, and I actually moved to United States. San Francisco was my first stop, and I was already an adult. So as you can imagine, when you come here as a kid, it was a lot easier. But when you come here as an adult, it's harder in everything. So I went to San Francisco State University for my MBA degree, and that turns out to be a very valuable degree. Let me share with you my story, because before I got this degree, I already got my bachelor's in China, and from very good school, very good major. I even worked 2.5 years in the very prestigious international bank in China, and I had a very prestigious job. But when you come here, you start everything from scratch. And when I went to interviews, one of the things they look at my resume is they would say, "Oh, you don't have a degree from an American college." I said, "Yeah, I have a bachelor's degree." It's as if the degree earned from overseas doesn't really count. But just because they don't know better, right? Secondly, I did not have a local experience, so kind of prevent me from looking for the jobs I wanted to pursue at the beginning. So, and after I got my degree, unfortunately, it was the time I graduated in 2003. If you remember, that was just 2 years after 9/11. The economy was so bad, and I remember that was the time I submitted resume to 100 different companies. I only got maybe 1 or 2 calls, and that was typical. But like Jerome said earlier, don't see anything, any obstacles and failures as a bad thing. Actually, you learn valuable lessons from your failures and obstacles. And I become more resilient and more thick-skinned. So it's all good. In the end, in the long term, it's all good. It's all good experience. So I kind of spent a few years doing bookkeeping, which, well, they actually don't need an MBA degree for that job. But you know what? In any job, you learn, you earn experience. Nothing is bad in the long run, which turns out that was absolutely true, because those experiences really helped me get a basic understanding of the companies and how the operation of the companies. And about 14 years ago, I just had a chance to set my foot in the door. So I kind of late. So you guys are really lucky. You're still in school. You'll probably get your first job. Some of you are interested in getting a job in the corporate world. You'll probably get a job after you graduated or soon after you graduated from college. But my story is very different, because I was an immigrant as an adult, and everything started over, and then had to spend a few years doing something that really didn't need an advanced degree. So I finally got my real corporate job with a Fortune 500 company. It was headquartered in London, but they have a major US business. It's in the aerospace industry. How do I get this job? Everybody has a different way to get their first job. We can talk about it. The way I got this first job, my first real corporate job with a really good Fortune 500 company. was because I applied to a job based in the middle of nowhere. So you actually, it's less competitive. I would put it this way. You think about, so you guys are in San Francisco, so just use Google, for example, or Facebook, right? Silicon Valley, big tech. Everybody want to get in, or Apple, right? So highly competitive. So you're looking at how likely you will get a job in Cupertino at Apple headquarters, right? But if, let's just say, Google or Apple has an outpost somewhere, I don't know, for let's give hypothetically, they have an outpost in the middle of nowhere, a small town, or in my case, it was in the middle of a Mojave Desert. There's nothing, it's all brown, nothing around. So you most likely, don't take me wrong, they're not going to hire you just because it's less competitive. You still need to meet all the requirements. You still need to be really good. The only difference is, instead of having like 1,000 people competing for the one job at the headquarters of Apple in Cupertino, you probably have only about maybe 10 or 20. That's the difference. But they still have the same standard. It's just less competitive. You have a higher chance to get the opportunity and at least get interview. So I didn't know anybody at the company. I basically just applied for the position, and I had no any prior experience in the industry. And I was actually so surprised. I got a call from the recruiter back east. She said, "Oh yeah, we wanted to schedule interview with you." All right. I was like, "Oh my gosh, good." And of course, I knew that was the chance for me to really. I really wanted this job because I really want to get into a real nice corporate environment. So I actually, this is what I did. I did my homework. I really did my homework. I did a research on the company. I did a lot of research on the business unit, the specific unit in the middle of nowhere. I even drove all the way to Mojave Desert, where the company was located. It was really in the middle of nowhere. I would say if you your car just broke down and you have nobody to ask for help. That's just and I make sure that I know about surroundings, and so all of that really helped, because I went into the interview and knowing that I had no any prior experience in the industry, but the reason why I got the job was because the hiring manager hired me for my character. So I showed her my resilience, my work ethic, and also my eagerness to work for the company, and also show her that, demonstrate to her I did research on the company. I even drove all the way to this the desert town in the middle of nowhere just before my interview. So she gave me the opportunity. She hired me, and later, after I was hired, she actually told me she got a lot of resistance when she decided to hire me, because other people who didn't interview me, they just look at my resume and say, "Why do you hire Amy? Yeah, she had no prior industry experience, blah, blah, blah." And my hiring manager said, "Yeah, everybody has a first time. But you have to demonstrate that you have that kind of drive, work ethic, and they hire you for the character." So, and then I don't want to make this a lecture. I said I want to make this an interactive dialogue. How many of you wanted to pursue a career in the corporate world? Good. And do you have an idea of what type of industry you want to be in? Yeah, Natalia, right? Natalia.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
correct. What industry do you want to work in?
In commercial real estate.
Commercial
real estate.
Commercial real estate. Oh, glad you. I had a okay. I had a mentee 2 years ago. He at the time he just graduated with a finance degree from San Francisco State, and I never met him in person to be honest. I just got a call from the career office, say, hey, we have this undergrad just graduated. He wants to look for a job in the commercial real estate. He wants to work at the bank, covering the commercial real estate space. So okay, so I started to mentor him. We call each other like once a week, once every other week. I was very busy at the time, working like crazy hours, but I still managed to carve out the time, have real one-on-one mentoring. And in the end, he found a really decent job in San Francisco at JP Morgan. Yeah, just I was so proud of him. And he was just like you guys, just graduated with a bachelor's degree, no prior full-time experience, and also, as a matter of fact, his GPA was very low, below 3.0, but he still managed to get a job with JP Morgan in downtown San Francisco and work in the commercial real estate space. So that's another topic I'm going to talk about. It's the your academics. It's important, but don't strictly focus on academics, because at any company, I've been working at 4 Fortune 500 companies so far, and all of the companies, they do have a threshold, like a 3.0. I remember 3.0. 3.0 is a threshold. Basically, when you're above 3.0, they don't really care that much about your academics. Of course, they will ask you some technical question. You have to understand it, know how to answer it. But don't think that is the only thing that will get you where you want to be. A lot of time, what I've seen is, especially like you guys try to look for the first job in a corporate. A lot of, just like in my experience, they hire you not for your experience. They know that you don't have experience, but you have to demonstrate to them, number one, you're coachable. That's very important. You're a team player. You're not like, my gosh, I got a 4.0 GPA. I just graduated. I know everything. Yeah, no. They know that you are eager to learn. You have a strong work ethic, and you really are passionate about their business, and you are very career oriented, and you are coachable, and you are very not just book smart, but I wouldn't use the word street smart, but you know what I mean. You can't be just only book smart, but you have a pretty good communication skills, interpersonal skills, and like Jerome mentioned earlier, very importantly, you know how to connect with people. That's very important. When actually people, we are all, there's no such thing as absolute objectivity, I would say. Even in the hiring process, a lot of time you have several candidates. Don't think that the best candidate always win the job. I've got opportunities. I was not the best candidate in terms of my experience, and they actually evaluate you on everything. So, and you never know that what they care about, what they value about. But like Jerome said earlier, it's very important, the network. It's the way you connect, how you connect with people. I know networking, it's very, very, to a lot of people, I've been to a lot of workshops, and I personally don't have a problem with networking, but a lot of my colleagues say they feel really, really painful when they go to a networking event. They feel like it was like they were forced to go to the event because they have to. It's how you feel like naturally build a connection with the people. That's and also you don't just like talk to people just for the sake of talking. People can feel it. You just just kind of because you are there. But you sincerely talk to people in a way you really want to get to know them, and you're authentic. Yeah, that's very important. And LinkedIn, Jerome mentioned earlier, LinkedIn is a really, really powerful tool. And also, I know, let me tell you why LinkedIn is so good. Because on LinkedIn, you actually post a lot of things. It's way beyond your resume. I've seen a lot of LinkedIn profile. They merely just list their education, work experience, nothing more. LinkedIn is actually the place where you can really provide a lot of information about yourself, more than just your education and your work experience. I say that because you're very welcome to send me a connection on LinkedIn, and you can look at my LinkedIn profile. The reason is, okay, I'll give you a recent example. I've been to a couple of interviews lately for executive level positions. In one of the interview I had with the CFO of a global company, we spend most of the time talking about non-business related topics, to be honest. Why? Because when you go to work, yes, you do need to have certain skill set, everything. But besides that, it's all about your relationship with your colleagues, with your customers. So how do you carry yourself? And do you have any passion in life? Hobbies, for example, that actually they help them to evaluate you as a whole person, because nobody wants to just hire somebody like a machine, just do the job and go home. No, it's way more than just your technical skill. So we talk about, because I do have a lot of hobbies. So I have a day job. I'm currently a director of finance accounting at the aerospace R&D company, specializing in those very fancy technology development. And also, I'm also CFO and a board member at a charity, and based in Texas. So I have a remote working experience and a board experience. And I share with this CFO that I'm so passionate about the mission of the charity, because they provide financial support to cancer survivors. It's very meaningful to me, and it actually sometimes breaks my heart when I attend those board meetings that we have to decide how much we offer support to certain cancer survivors, because we can't just give everybody everything. So that's good experience. So he got to see I do have the purpose, in my life. I don't just like come to do my day job and go home and watch Netflix. So that's, and besides that, I do have a hobby. I sing opera. As a matter of fact, I have a recital tomorrow night. I need to get prepared after this talk. So they actually look at you, especially when you progress in your career, they already know you have the experience from your day job. So they look at your resume. They already know you are successful in your job. Otherwise, you won't stay the job for long, right? If you are not successful, if you build a successful career, it reflects on your resume. They already know. So it's about more. It's more than just your resume. Does it make sense? Yeah.
Amy, I have
yeah.
a question.
Sure.
So when you say like show these skills, like that
Mm-hmm.
you're coachable, that you're determined.
Mm-hmm.
If you could think back to that one interview that you had, or any of your other interviews, how do you actually show that? What do you say to them that makes
Yes.
them like, wow, like I really want you here in my company?
Good question. Great question. In an interview, you can say whatever you want, but it won't convince them. You always give example. Always give a specific example. Then they know you experienced that, and you are not just talk the talk. So how I say I'm coachable. Why do I believe you are coachable, right? So you can just give it. I don't remember specifically. That was so many years ago. My son is your age. But I remember was I always give a specific example based on my own experience. Always speak from your own experience. That's the safest. And how do you? And also, well, there's another topic is how if you don't have a one-for-one experience, how do you pivot using your current experience? How to pivot? Relate. How do you relate your existing experience with the job you want to pursue, but you do not necessarily have the experience. But what I'm saying is, you always speak from your own experience. That's because people can tell if you make stuff up, or that's truly from your real experience. So how I can give you an example. I convince the interviewer why I'm coachable. Okay, I can say, well, for example, I was in my last job or the last internship. Um, I I thought I was doing something really really well and it looks very nice, and then I got critique from a senior member in the team, and I might feel taken aback because I don't necessarily totally agree with what they said, but what I ended up doing was I listened, I acknowledged, and I went back and then revised what I did and sent them a revised version and got the approvals from there. So that tells you that you are humble enough to receive feedback, and you don't always just insist I'm right, I'm the best, or your opinion is really stupid. You don't never do that. So you sometimes you can decide how much what they not it doesn't mean that what everything that other people said to you is always right. But what I'm saying is you always remember that don't feel offended when people give you feedback, and you always take that but you can judge for yourself that if there's any you want to how much you want to accept, and yeah. So that's the one way you can demonstrate to the interviewer why you're coachable. And also you can one of the things I think over the years what I learned is interviewers are usually they are very experienced. They can tell right away if you are pretentious or you are authentic, you are you have a real passion, or you just make something up. It's like, oh, I really like your business, but they can tell. They can actually. I interview people too this years. I can actually I can tell when I interview people. I can tell right away. Even just at the beginning, I can tell right away if that person is coachable or not. This person is gonna be a pain in the net or a good team player. I can just tell without you telling me any of your story. I can pretty much sense that because I work with so many people. I'm experienced enough to the point that I can kind of sense certain things, and I can tell if you are really authentic. You are speaking from your own experience, or you are just really a smooth talker, know how to deliver an answer that other people want to hear. And I don't know about, I can't speak for other interviewers, but when I interview people, I always look for authenticity. Okay, I don't look for a perfect answer just because they read it from a book or something. Oh, you should say this so that it was more acceptable, or this is the answer they like to hear. Actually, I can tell. I believe a lot of experienced interviewers, especially when they're at the senior level, they met enough people, they can tell if you are authentic or not, or you are just smooth enough to know how to answer certain questions in the way that you think they want to hear. Okay. Anybody else? I would like to get questions or can have a dialogue with you. All right. Yeah, Dylan? Or anybody? I thought somebody wanted to ask a question.
Did you have a question? I can ask one if you didn't.
Okay.
No? Okay. Yeah, so you said you interview people. Mm-hmm. What are like the toughest questions that you ask that you feel like people have a hard time answering that would be good for us to know in case we go to an interview?
Mm-hmm. Okay. If I interview a junior level person for the junior position, I do not really ask them too much about the academics, to be honest with you, because you already tell me your GPA. I already assume that if you graduate from college with a certain GPA, you do your work. Okay. What I usually ask about I remember that was 15 years ago. I interviewed the new college grad. I think he graduated from one of the California State University. I don't remember which campus. So he seems like, I could tell that he tried to project himself to be very professional, likable, and kind of lost his authenticity a little bit. So I kind of changed that because I could tell because he was nervous. He tried to I am professional. I didn't look the part. I can imagine because that's very common for a new college grad with no any prior experience. They want to look the part, but I can tell they're just trying to look the part. So the way I changed that, so instead of asking him the typical questions, this is one of the other things that I don't usually ask typical questions, because I know you prepare for those typical interview questions, right? Because I don't want you to just memorize the answer, come to me, just give you your the memorization of the answer, because I'm pretty sure you already know certain the typical interview questions that you get asked. So instead, I ask him to talk about his life. That opens him up. Because I want to see his true self, how he carried himself. Okay. Okay. So, and I'm not a big fan of asking tricky questions or caught somebody off guard. And I'm not a fan of asking the very stereotypical interview question that you'll get from any career coach, that the list of the interview question. I am more into having a kind of like this, a real conversation with people. So I want to see the truth, your true self. You don't have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that you have to. I think this is one of the things, the mistakes I made when I was a young professional. Is I didn't have mentors at the time. I kind of course, without knowing anything, just like this young college grad I just talked about, I try to look the part, and I looked like I have to look very, very serious, professional, look like a very corporate the person. But and then I didn't know what I didn't know at the time is when you try too hard, people actually can see it. So just sometimes you relax a little bit. Don't be afraid of looking imperfect. There's no such thing called perfect to me. I mean, we're all humans, okay? Just be a human, be yourself, be authentic. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask Jerome 2 questions, and then there's one more question in the chat that Aditi mentioned.
Okay.
Jerome, hearing from Amy's experience in what she looks for interviews, I know you had your own business, and did you have to hire people, and are those some similar pointers, or is there any differences in what you would look for in people you were hiring?
Yeah,
And
great
then my second question was, so you got into catering. What made you like pursue like sticking to it? Were you a server at one point, and then did you work your way up, or did you like have a mentor or connected with someone that you brought you to like the top level of management right away? And then I'll ask Aditi's questions after.
I'll start with the second first and then work back. I shared I grew up in West Oakland. There was an organization that came in called World Impact. They ran a camp and conference center called the Oaks Conference Center. Shared a little bit that I worked there. It was a summer program, 3 summers, where you'd go and learn a skill. And I learned a little bit about the kitchen, started wiping tables, went back one summer, was an intern. By the time I left, we were feeding 500 people, and I was running the whole kitchen and the crew. And I just found a passion for cooking, mostly because I got to eat. Again, there's a theme in my life that I'm not ashamed of. So it was a progression of loving food, being able to serve people through that. And when you do a great job at a wedding, people are happy, and it's invisible because people don't go, wow, the food really made this event, because that's not what they're there for. But you know when food is bad at a wedding. So there was a lot of passion behind what I did. In terms of interview questions, both when I do interviews and for those that I interview, I like when they try to turn the interview around and to ask me questions, because as much as I want them to be a good fit for me, I also want to make sure that vice versa, that they're going to find something they enjoy in the position. So every interview I've had, and I didn't mention this earlier, I use that present, past, future. Tell me a little bit about the role. What are you guys looking for? Who had the role before? What did they do well? What could they have done better? Because then going to stories and being a good way to communicate, if they say, oh, we really like that this person did X, Y, Z. Oh, well, I have a story where at my last job, I did that. And it's very similar to this. And then same thing, if I get this job in the future, 6 months from now, what would you see me doing? Where would you like to see the position at? So it shows that you're interested and engaged and asking questions. And when you do that, to me, I've always felt really good about those candidates.
That's awesome. I feel like those what you and Amy said both relates to like the past, present, and future is like talking about the life, the stories, the examples. So that's awesome. And then there's 2 questions. I'll start with the first one. Aditi asked, how important is it to mention your hobbies during an interview? I've heard before that interviewers want to see range and that you're capable of other things as well. So you or Amy could answer this one, and then I'll ask the other one. And then if anyone has questions, we'll do the last few. I know it's 7 right now, so I don't want to keep you guys too long.
Good question. I talk about my hobbies in interviews, but not all the time. Another lesson I learned from my own experience is not everybody cares about your hobby. Some people really care. Some people don't care at all. So the one lesson I learned was you have to be able to kind of read the room. What I mean by that, when you walk into the interview, you get a sense that this interviewer, they probably only care about your credentials, your related job experience, right? There are people I've been to an interview just like that. That's all they care about. They don't care about anything else, your personality, your life, or your hobbies and your goals, anything. They're very kind of just like, I'm looking for certain people with this kind of skill set, experience. That's all I care. So in that case, don't bring hobbies. So just read, kind of a sense that what kind of interviewers they are. But some interviewers, they really want to hear about your life and your hobbies and anything outside your day job. Not necessarily they have the same hobby or they really care about your hobby. Like, I sing opera, okay? That's how many people really care about opera, right? But what they want to care about is, it's something else in life that really you feel really passionate about, that you, no matter how difficult, how busy you are, how difficult the situation is, you will not give up. So they want to look at your character, okay? So that, but when you talk about your hobby, of course, because it's your hobby, it's your passion, they can see your passion, right? So that will be very helpful. And yes, and don't be afraid, just like Jerome said earlier, asking tough question, asking good question in the interview really help you. I have several times I felt like I did not have really good experience in certain areas, or I do not even have this experience in certain areas. But because at the end of the interview, I asked really good questions and tough questions, because they know if you do the homework, if you don't do it, you won't be able to ask those good questions and tough questions. And they like that you ask tough questions. That means you are a thinker. You think. You are able to observe things and ask good questions. I have several times I got job offers because of that. So that's very important.
Yeah, I agree with Amy. I read the room, be mindful of the conversation. I had a guy that I interviewed last week that I asked him what he was currently doing, what he did before, what do you want to do long term. He shared he wanted to start a comic shop. I play Magic the Gathering. It's sold at comic shops. I may have let that slip. We had a 15-minute conversation about Magic the Gathering and how awesome that was. He started this morning. He's a great guy. I don't know if he can do the job, but no, I'm kidding. He was totally qualified. But back to what Amy said, it's not always about the resume. He found something that he connected with me on. He took advantage of it. So yeah, I like when people do bring things up. Be mindful. There's boundaries you want to set. You don't want to overshare, but a little bit can go a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, as a matter of fact, 2 days ago, I had an interview with another global company CFO, and he's French, so he's not American. I'm so used to American the style. His French is so very different. When he introduced himself to me, he would talk about his upbringing, and he even told me at the end, "So I'm married with kids. You will never hear that." You would never hear it from an American manager. No, he's French. He grew up, and he's very, he worked in many different countries, so has a different kind of, they come from different culture. So I immediately read it. So when it's my turn to introduce myself to him, I just mirror the same style. Yeah. So that's connection. Your ability to read the room and adapt to the style and find the connection with the people you are having a conversation with is super important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna ask this question to Jerome, and it's from Aditi. The food industry is so competitive, and some consider it to be quite saturated. How do you think people can make their food stand out?
It's a great question, especially now where my network at the beginning of this year, over half of them don't have a position now, and it's tough looking at LinkedIn and seeing that. For me, simple is best. If you're using great ingredients and you're meeting a need in the community, I see a lot of people jump into it because they think it's easy money without really having the end in mind. So who are you serving? Why are you serving them? Why are you doing it? For me, I can very easily say that at Wise Sons, we make amazing products and we're looking to bring this great deli experience into the community where you work, celebrate, or live. And I truly believe that. My drivers know that. Everybody embodies that. I know that our bagels are fresh made and it take 48 hours to produce. And so it's about really having that story behind it as well. If you're just making sandwiches and there's no passion behind that sandwich, people will know. But if you have that story and that passion, and you have someone like me who hopefully can sell it well, it'll all come together pretty well.
Amazing. There's one comment from Alan that said, I was told to turn interviews into consultation type of discussion. This would show that you are an experienced applicant. I feel like that's true to what Jerome and Amy were saying about really connecting with people. Okay, just to summarize this meeting, and then we'll all head off into our evening. So Jerome, thank you for talking about topics on goal setting. All of those topics were super great, and you guys, we will be posting this video on YouTube. So if you want to look back at that list, we can definitely, it would be great for you guys to actually write those out. I personally will do that for myself. It seems like just putting it out there is kind of manifesting it for yourself. So thank you for that. And also Amy and Jerome both talk about how great networking is and connecting with whoever you're interviewing. Again, Amy said stuff about how much competition there is just in the Bay Area alone. So when we are graduating and trying to find our jobs, it's good to, you could try to do the Bay Area jobs, but also because the pandemic's making the economy really weird, maybe taking her suggestion to go somewhere else that you wouldn't think of going and applying there would be a great way to like lower the competition. And even because we're on because of this pandemic, so many organizations have hopped onto virtual and remote occupations. So even if you do go to somewhere in the middle of nowhere and get hired, you could still even possibly be remote and stay wherever you'd like. I guess that was just like a little summary of it, but definitely we'll post this video in our Slack channel and LinkedIn for you guys to look back. Thank you so much to our alum, Jerome, Dees, and Amy Komins. You guys,
Thank you.
we appreciate your time and your insight, and I hope you guys all got something out of this. I for sure have, and I guess that is it. Thank you for tuning into MOBS, everybody, and take care the rest of this year. I hope you guys will have a great next year as well.